This is a chart of the S&P 500. It's at its highest point since records began in 1871. And if you've got money ready to invest, investing it at all-time highs probably feels like the worst time to do so. And so instead of guessing, let me introduce you to three investors. This is Tommy. He genuinely has the worst timing in investing history. Every time he buys, the market crashes. On the armchair is Harry. He invests every single month no matter what the market is doing. And finally, we have Carl. He got scared during a crash, sold everything, and he's been sat in cash ever since, waiting for the right moment to get back in. So today I'm going to put these three investors to the test. We'll find out who's going to perform best, and I'll share what actually happens when you invest at record highs.
Record high.
Record highs.
Record highs.
Have you ever had the feeling that the moment you invest, the market will crash, just like it's been waiting for you personally? Well, that's the fear that keeps most people out, especially when markets are at record highs. So let's test it properly with the most unluckiest investor that could ever exist, which is Tommy. He invests £10,000 at three different points in his life, and somehow at every single time he manages to put his money in at the exact peak, right before a crash. He buys in the year 2000, then the dot-com bubble bursts, and the market crashes 47.5%. He buys in again in 2008, then the financial crisis hits, where markets collapsed 56%. And that rotten luck continued with an investment in 2020 when the pandemic hit, and the market dropped 33.8% in a matter of weeks. Three investments at three market peaks and three crashes immediately after every single time. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've never met an individual that is this unlucky, but if we were to design an investor who was going to be, then it would be Tommy. But what happened to Tommy's portfolio? Well, before I tell you, if Tommy's story is something that you're worried or conscious of, then you're definitely not the only one. Because in actual fact, 34% of people who don't invest say a fear of losing money is the reason why. So is that fear justified? Well, I have a piece of research here which answers that question directly, and it's titled The Surprising Benefits of Investing at All-Time Highs. It shows exactly what happens when you invest at a record high, not just in Tommy's three unlucky circumstances, but between 1990 right the way through to 2024. Now, you might not have expected this, but the average returns after 1 year was still 13.5%. After 3 years, it was 43.6%, and after 5 years, 71.9%. So buying at the top, on average, still made money with very solid returns, and it makes you kind of wonder why people are a little bit hesitant about investing at all-time highs, especially when the data suggests that markets tend to move higher afterwards. But for those still skeptical, let's take a look at this from a slightly different angle and look at the odds of losing money after investing at all-time highs. RBC Global Asset Management looked at every all-time high from 1950 to 2025, all 1,325 of them, and they found the odds of the S&P 500 being down more than 10% a year later was just 9%. 3 years later, that drops to 2%, and after 5 years, well, it's never happened before. Why, you may be wondering? Because all-time highs don't typically come before a crash. In actual fact, all-time highs happen usually just before more all-time highs. They tend to kind of cluster. If we look at data from, say, in like the late 90s, and even the recovery after 2008, you can see that there's lots more of them due to stronger corporate earnings and growing economies. Whilst in between, all-time highs were few and far between for obvious reasons. So why does Tommy's story feel like it's the one that's going to happen to you? Well, let's be honest about this. We've all probably heard of somebody who lost half of their pension just before they planned to retire in 2008. Or even just somebody who got wiped out from investing in one way or another. And it's those stories that we remember because they're the scary ones, right? And it's exactly what sells. For every 10 headlines you see in the press about a market crash, you'll get one for a time where the market is just simply going on record high after record high. So what exactly happened to Tommy? Well, despite buying at three of the worst points in history over the last 2.5 decades, well, he actually ended up significantly ahead, but I'll share the exact figures towards the end of the video. But that was because he did one simple thing, and that was that he never sold. That's an entire skill in itself that's super important for any investor to become successful over the long term. Because one of the biggest dangers to an investment portfolio usually is whether you can hold your nerve or not. Quick one whilst we're here though, I do all my personal investing over on Trading 212, and they're currently offering all new customers one free fractional share valued up to £100 when you scan the QR code up here on screen. Alternatively, download the app in the App Store and enter the promo code Mitch. And all you'll need to do is complete onboarding and deposit £1 into your account. Anyway, if Tommy had sold after any one of these crashes, convincing himself that he'd made a terrible mistake, then that completely changes his story and his outcome altogether, which is exactly where our next investor goes completely wrong. Okay, let's bring Carl back in here, and from the year 2000, Carl prefers to save his money rather than invest, just like the other 13 million UK adults who prefer to hold £430 billion in cash rather than investments. And over a couple of decades, Carl has built up quite the lump sum of £30,000 in excess of his emergency fund, which he has stored elsewhere, and in 2020, he now feels like he's prepared to invest that money into the market. He invests the full £30,000, and for the first couple of months, it actually works. The market gradually goes up, it's boring but steady, but boring is good. Then the world changed forever.
There will come a moment when no health service in the world could possibly cope, because there won't be enough ventilators, enough intensive care beds, enough doctors and nurses.
The US stock market crashes 34% in 4 weeks. It feels like the world is ending because, well, briefly it kind of was. So Carl opens up his investment app and hits sell so he doesn't lose any more money. And he thinks, I'll just jump back in when markets recover. Fast forward 6 years and he's still waiting for that perfect opportunity, and he's been sat in cash ever since. Now, Carl isn't stupid, he isn't bad with money, and in actual fact what he did was one of the most well-published reactions in behavioral finance. And in 1979, a paper called Prospect Theory was published, which later won a Nobel Prize, and it showed that we feel the pain of losing money roughly twice as intensely as we feel the same pleasure of gaining the same amount. So when Carl's portfolio dropped and he panicked, that's exactly what our brain is designed to do. It's designed to protect us. The problem is that instinct was designed to protect us from lions and tigers and not index funds. And this isn't all just theory, there is actual real data that shows the true cost to people. I actually have another research paper here called Trading is Hazardous to Your Wealth, and it studied over 66,465 brokerage accounts over 5 years, and they found investors who traded the most, as in the ones that were just jumping in and out of the market, earned 11.4% a year, but staying invested in the market over the same period returned 17.9%. That's not a small gap by any means, that's nearly a third of the market gains given up just from trying to perfectly time the market. But the gap here for Carl is even bigger because he made the mistake of selling at the bottom and never benefited from when the market went on to recover. And it's not totally uncommon. Actually, 65% of UK adults say investing feels too risky compared to saving. So saving always feels like the safer option. The problem is using the words safe and cash probably shouldn't be in the same sentence, because data shows between 2015 and 2024, if you'd invested in a global equity market inside of a stocks and shares ISA, it would have returned 12.98% a year on average versus just 1.66% of the cash ISA. Now, when we factor in the average inflation rate over the same period of 3.29%, and so anyone holding cash saw their savings grow a little bit, but prices of goods and services rose far faster, and therefore what that money would buy actually shrunk during that period of time. So how much did Carl benefit from staying in cash? Well, I'll show you this number alongside Tommy's at the end of the video, but let's just say he never lost another penny, which I guess on paper sounds quite good. What it actually cost him was opportunity cost. Everything that he could have gained by staying invested. But there's a third way to handle this. No panic, no predictions, no trying to be clever, and that's our third investor. Finally, meet Harry. Now, Harry doesn't really have much of a story, and his strategy isn't necessarily something that you would see in a news headline. Starting in January 2000, Harry has the same £30,000 to invest. But instead of investing in 3 lump sums like Tommy did, or perhaps waiting and then going in all at once like Carl, instead he breaks down his £30,000 into monthly contributions of £96.15. And he invests every single month without fail through the dot-com bubble, through the financial crisis, and through the COVID-19 pandemic. He doesn't check the news before he invests, he's not waiting for a market dip, and he barely checks his investment portfolio. He simply just invests whether the market's up or the market's down, he doesn't really care. But here's the part that doesn't get said enough about Harry. Tommy's story is dramatic because he bought in at peak market prices, and you can point to the exact moment each time. Whereas Harry never had that moment, he had hundreds of them. Between 2000 and 2025, we've had 455 all-time highs, and updating the data for 2026, we've had 25 so far, which means over 26 years of investing, Harry didn't just risk investing at all-time highs 3 times like Tommy did, or just the once like Carl did. Statistically, he did it dozens of times. He just never paid any attention whilst he was doing so. He also continued to buy during the 2020 market crash, whilst the headlines were screaming and investors like Carl decided to sell. Harry's investing superpower isn't necessarily about being the smartest investor, and instead it's more about how he's able to remove himself from the decision. There was never a moment where he felt like he had to be brave or a single moment where he felt like he had to make an investment choice. You probably already know that Harry does well, you just might not have really considered why. But just know, just like Harry, you don't need to be the smartest, the bravest, or even the investor with the best strategy to do well when investing in the stock market. But now let's put all three side by side to see how they did. So excluding platform fees and investment charges, along with FX conversions too, because we're going to try and compare this all fairly under the same conditions, here's what actually happened. Three investors, same £30,000 each, same 26 years between 2000 and 2025. Carl waited 20 years to feel ready to invest, and then when he did, he quickly sold, held in cash ever since, and he turned his £30,000 into £29,246. Tommy, who theoretically would be the worst timed investor in recorded history, turned his three £10,000 investments into £160,253. So the absolute worst timing still beat the safe option. Harry, though, who never timed a single thing and just simply invested every single month for 26 years, turned his £30,000 into £168,276. So if there's anything that you can take away from today's video, Tommy proves terrible timing can survive, Harry proves no timing at all beats trying to be clever, and Carl proves that the one thing that actually costs you isn't buying at a record high, it's being too scared to invest at all, or too scared to stay in once you have. Now before you go, I recently made a video on exactly the accounts that I use for both my cash and my investments, amongst some other things too. So if you're interested to see what those accounts are, then be sure to click on that video next. And with that being said, I'll see you over in the next one.